Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started, but everybody feel free to continue putting your name, where you're from, just introducing yourself in the chat for us. My name is Angelica Kristen, and I'm in charge of organizing the webinars here at the Southeast PTTC. And I'm really, really excited about this one today. I'm joined by my colleague Chisholm Ajasa, who is going to be helping me today. We'll keep an eye on the chat and everything, so feel free to put your messages in there. You can also direct message me in the chat if you're having an issue or anything like that. So today we're going to have this wonderful webinar called From Boots to Belonging, a Prevention Provider's Guide to Serving Military-Connected Communities. So first, we just want to put our little disclosure acknowledgement on here. We here at the Southeast PTTC are funded by SAMHSA, but the opinions expressed in the webinar don't necessarily reflect the official views of SAMHSA or the federal government. Just a little disclaimer. So the PTTC, for those of you who might not know, is a national network of regional centers. We equip the prevention workforce in evidence-based tools, training, just to try to help you in your substance misuse work. And this is the map. This isn't a great map. I need to replace this, but this shows all the divisions, all the centers. We are the Southeast PTTC. So we are there where the Wake Forest School of Medicine is here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we're connected to the school, but you can see that there are centers for every region. We serve the Southeast PTTC, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be from here in order to benefit from our services. So just to let you know, after the webinar, we're going to be putting an evaluation form called a GIPRA into the chat, and there will also be a slide for it with a QR code. If you follow that, it's going to take you to a survey where you can tell us your opinions and your thoughts about today. It's really quick. It's like a 2 to 3 minute survey. After that, you will get the certificate of attendance. It's going to pop up in a new tab for you, and you can download it from there and add your name to it. And we'll emphasize that again at the end, but just to let you know, you'll also be getting the recording, the slides, all of that in an email as well, and it'll be on our page dedicated to this webinar. So now I would love to introduce our speaker, Dave Closson. He is a nationally recognized substance misuse prevention expert, military veteran, and former director of the Mid-America PTTC. So he's very familiar with the work that we do and what you guys need as the audience today. He takes his experience and history in various areas to help communities and military populations build resilience and address substance misuse through evidence-based approaches. So without further ado, I will pass it along to him for our presentation today.
All right, welcome everybody. Good to see you leveraging that chat box. And I'm going to do that lovely thing we do in this virtual world and share my screen now as well. Give that a moment to show up on your end. Let you all get settled in for today's conversation. And, here's what today really comes down to. Yes, I'm jumping to it right on the very first slide. Boots are what the country issues you. Belonging is what you lose when you take them off, and what we can help rebuild through the work we do in prevention. So that's what today comes down to, is just that. And yes, my name is Dave Closson, and I've spent nearly 2 decades working alongside prevention coalitions, community organizations across the country. And one of the things that I've seen most is that prevention professionals feel like they're carrying the weight of all this work we do alone. And so I've set out to build what I call the DJC ecosystem, a connected support system for every stage of your prevention journey. But just a little bit more about me before we embark on this journey together is that, yes, I'm an Army veteran, Army infantry. I was on our sniper team when deployed to Iraq in 2005. I'm also a person in recovery, and I live with combat-related traumatic brain injury and PTSD. And I say that out loud intentionally in rooms like this one on purpose because honestly, for a long time, I thought those two things could not live in the same person. The guy who served and the guy who needed help. But through healing, I know that they can and they do. And I want to stand here as proof of those as well. But even more importantly about me, I am a proud girl dad. And that's why I'm here today. And that that is why I've dedicated my life to prevention work as well. For her, for all of the other kids out there as well. And enough about me, because this session is not about me. It's about the community we're here to serve. And it's about you. And thanks for dropping your names, your locations in the chat box. Greatly appreciate that. Always good to know who is in the room. It also tells me you know where that chat box is at and you know how to use it. So I want to just encourage you, use it throughout. I've got it pulled up over here. So lean into that chat box. Keep this conversation going. Use it as an extension of the main presentation itself. React, answer, ask, argue with me a little bit. And I really am serious about that because this session really only works if you lean in and you participate. Your chat box is the seat at the table. Now, a few times I'll ask you to answer just quick questions, and all of that's going to happen right there in the chat. With a larger group like this, sometimes coming off of mute can be a little bit chaotic, so I'm going to lean on that chat box quite a bit. Drop your questions in the chat anytime. Don't hold on to them. Our team will monitor the chat. I'm going to monitor the chat and grab them, put them in the queue, so we'll get to as many questions as possible. Now, this time will go by pretty quick. And so if we run out of time before I can get to your question, no worries. I will gladly follow up with you via email. Don't want to leave you hanging. Do not want to leave you hanging. But this is where we're headed today. 5 parts. We're going to start by setting the stage, why this matters, and who we're actually talking about. We're going to talk about their world, the branches, the structure, the values. Talk about their family, the spouses, kids, caregivers, the people who serve without ever putting on a uniform. Talk a little bit about their journey. And for that part, we're going to land on veterans and higher education because that's a place a lot of you can act on, can connect to right away. And then we'll wrap up with your toolkit, what you can actually do with all of this. And I want you to notice how we end our time together today. We're not ending with a bunch of, head nods. That was interesting. We're going to end with reflection and one real commitment that you can carry into Monday morning. All right. But before we dive in, here's what I'm hoping you'll be able to do by the time we wrap up. I want you to describe the characteristics, values, branch differences that shape the military and the veteran experience. I'm going to be asking to identify at least 3 risk factors, 3 protective factors, and apply at least 2 military-informed strategies for serving our SMVF members in your own prevention role. And by SMVF, for those that don't know, we love acronyms in this world. It's service members, veterans, and their families. Now, I'm going to be honest with you too about that third one, apply. To me, that is the one that matters. Anybody can sit through a webinar. Anybody can nod along. I get it. Okay. The real win today is that you walk out of here with 2 strategies you can actually use. And you're going to choose those 2 yourself. I'm not going to tell you what they are. That's up to you to choose. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we go along. Just 3 quick agreements for how we hold this space together, this virtual room that we're in. I'd like to encourage you all to stay curious. Assume there's more to the story than you can see from the outside. That's true of every service member and every family we're going to talk about today. And I'd invite you to speak from your own experience. Use I, not everyone. Your perspective is welcomed and valued. And what's shared here stays here. But what's learned here leaves here. We're going to touch on trauma. We're going to touch on recovery. We're going to touch on family pain. And people share, they share more when they trust the room. And so I want all of us to come together to build that room of safety and trust. And if you can live with these three agreements, would love for you to drop a thumbs up in the chat, use the reactions as well to just make sure, hey, yes, this is a room where we can be safe and connected and share. So drop those thumbs up. I see a couple coming in the reactions. Awesome. Feeling like I'm in great company. Was not worried about that not being the case, but it's always great to see it as well. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right. I dig it. Now, here we go. Time to buckle up. Part one, setting the stage. And before we learn about them, I want to get honest about us, about how ready our systems actually are to serve this community. And so here's we're going to start with a quick check-in, okay? This is the first one and it happens in the chat. How connected are you to the military community? Just a single letter. Type that letter in the chat box, just one character. A, I served. B, family member served. C, I work with the SMVF community regularly. D, little connection. And there's no right answer. D is a completely respectable place to be. I got it. I love this. I love this. Y'all are rocking the chat to the point where I got to grab it and hold on and scroll. Military spouse in the room. Wonderful. Wonderful. B, C's. Okay. Okay. Seeing a lot of B's and C's. Few A's. All right. All right. I dig it, Armando. I see you there. Victoria. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So that range, some of us have lived this, right? Some of us have lived this. Some of us might just be starting out. And that's perfect. All of you belong here. All of you belong here. So now let's do just one more. Let's just do one more. And this one's a chat waterfall. So type your answer, but don't hit enter or send just yet. When you hear the words military life, what is just one word that comes to mind? Just one word, that first word that shows up, that pops into your mind. Give you just a couple minutes to grab that word and type it in the chat. And then we'll do a little countdown and hit enter. All right. Hey, they're coming in. Awesome. You're ready for it. That's what I call motivated. All right. I'm going to try to grab some of them. Deployment, chaos, isolating, stress, discipline. Dedication, commitment, community, alcohol use, sacrifice, honorable, hard, moving, some more stressful and chaotic and unpredictable, loyalty, trauma, suicide, distant. Yeah. Yeah. I want to just invite you to look at that mix of words. Some of these words are about strength, pride, discipline, right? Loyalty, right? And some are a little more about struggle, sacrifice, trauma, loss. That right there in the chat box, strength and struggle in the same breath. That tension, that tension is exactly what military-informed prevention has to hold on to, both at once. It's not one or the other. You've got to hold both at once. And so that brings me to why this matters. This slide, this is the theme, the thesis of this whole session. And if you remember one thing, nothing else from today, I'd like to highlight, stamp, asterisk, underline, bold font to remember this. The military-connected community is one of the most resilient populations we serve. Strong values, deep camaraderie, a community built on discipline, on mission, on taking care of your own. Those are not soft assets. Those are real strengths. And those are a foundation you get to build prevention on. And at the same time, they're one of the most underserved. Stigma keeps people quiet. Frequent moves break the continuity of care. And systems that don't know how to ask the right questions leave people completely invisible to prevention work. You have to hold both of these truths at once. A mistake I often see folks do, they tend to go one way or the other. Either we treat this community as fragile, or we treat them as fine and totally self-sufficient. But neither one of those is true. So here's the line that I want to land, and I want to land it slowly, so I'm going to slow down. When we get it wrong, people disengage quietly. They disengage quietly. That key word is quiet. They don't complain. They don't file a grievance. They don't go before the board and file a big rant. They just don't come back. But when we do get it right, when we earn the trust that prevention depends on, when we earn that trust, it makes all the difference in the world. And so where does it start? Where does earning that trust start? Well, it starts with their world, knowing their world, because you cannot effectively serve a community you do not understand. And so that's where we're going to start in this part, knowing their world. So we've got 6 branches. I'm not going to lecture you through all 6, right? We all know how to use Google and Chat GPT and all those tools now if you want to dig in and learn all the intricate details about every single branch, because that'd be a whole encyclopedia set. And I may have just aged myself saying encyclopedia sets. Yeah. But little highlight of them. Army. Army's the best. Just because I was Army. That's just a little joke right there. But Army is the largest branch. Think land power. Marine Corps, smaller, but oh, fiercely proud of it. When you think Navy, think sea power, long deployments. Air Force, think air and cyber. A lot of tech. Same with the Space Force, a lot of tech. The newest branch stood up in 2019. And then the Coast Guard, think rescue and homeland security. Now here's the point of this slide here. And it's not trivia. It's not trivia. Each branch has its own identity, its own language, its own pride. And getting that wrong, like calling somebody by the wrong name, call a Marine a soldier. If I jump in the chat box and say, all right, Victoria, great soldier, right? No, I've started that relationship at a deficit, right? Because those branches come with their pride and their own language. And I want you to look at that bottom line on this slide here, because this one is one that prevention folks often miss. the National Guard and the reserves. They serve part-time and they live in your community full-time, not on a far-off base, at your kid's school, in your congregation, maybe even at your coalition table. But when you talk about this community, the branch they served in is only the first layer. I want to give you the whole model here. This is one thing that you can hold on to and you can take with you as well. An easy takeaway is understanding the 3 layers. Because military life, it's not a single box you fit people into. It can be boiled down to 3 layers. And every layer is another reason no 2 service members are the same. That first layer, the branch, that's a slide we were just on. Each branch has its own world, literally its own world. But the question that starts to open that own world is simply, which branch did you serve in? Then layer 2 comes down to their unit and their role. And this is the one I see a lot of prevention providers miss the most. Not everyone is infantry. The military runs on mechanics, medics, cooks, pilots, logistics, bankers, cyber, military police, musicians. All of these different roles inside of the branches. A pilot and a person who maintains that aircraft are in the same branch. They're on the same flight line, but they're living completely different daily realities, different rhythms, different pride, different stressors as well. Oh, okay, that sounds complicated, right? How am I supposed to know all of this? All the branches, all the roles, everything about them, their rhythms, their stressors. It's a lot, right? Here's all you do. You simply ask, so what did you do? So what did you do? That question right there is a gift. That's going to open the door to the part of their service that they're usually the proudest of, right? So just ask, what did you do? You don't need to be an expert on it. You don't need to have the MOS numbers memorized. Be curious and ask. When we look at layer 3, this one right here, the individual. Oh, this one is the one that I feel is the most important and the most overlooked, right? We can think, all right, we need to serve, we need to engage the military community. All right, what do we do to serve the Army? What do we do to serve the Marine Corps? But we don't look down to the individual level. We don't look down to it. Here's a line I'd like you to really hold on to, sit with for a minute. Can be in the same Humvee on the same mission and have a different experience. Quick little story snapshot being that during my first week in Iraq in 2005, I was driving a Humvee and we got hit with an improvised explosive device, AKA we got blown up. Now, I was in that Humvee with 4 other guys. All 4 of us could have a different response to that single incident, that single experience, depending upon where we were sitting in the Humvee, depending upon how we processed it, or even like me, didn't process it and try to just shove it down deep, right? 2 people in the same situation, same experience, can be impacted completely differently. But then also another layer to add to that, where they are in their healing journey can also play a role. Early on, when I had that trauma stuffed down deep, trying to keep it locked up in that box, compared to now, when I understand it, when I've worked with it, gone through the trauma recovery program, worked with the nervous system specialist, I can talk about it. And when I talk about it, I can talk about it in a different way because I have that understanding. And so individual experiences and even where they are in their healing journey is all going to play a role. One person might carry it as pride. The other one might carry it as weight, and most are somewhere in between. So don't make assumptions. Don't assume combat. Don't assume PTSD. Also, I'd encourage y'all not to assume their service is the most important thing about them or the least important. Let the person tell you. Simple question is, how does your service shape you now? Right? I want to I want to state something honestly here, in that almost everything I teach you today, the values, the risk factors, the family patterns, they are generalizations, right? I want to acknowledge that. Generalizations can be useful, but they're also how stereotypes can get built. So I want to encourage you to use these three layers as protection against those stereotypes by being curious, asking better questions, and never predicting the answer as well. So I want to pause here and let you go back to the chat. And I want you to just type one assumption about the military connected community that you're going to let go of today. Just one line. What's something you're going to let go of? One assumption, one generalization, one stereotype. Cassie, I'm glad you enjoy the question. It is simple but very powerful. What are you going to let go of? Military spouse is the same. They're all soldiers, right? Right. Don't call a Marine a soldier. Write that one down. That's for sure. Every person served has PTSD. Yep. Same similar experiences. Yes. Yes. I like it. I like it. Not everyone has experienced the same. Yes, indeed. I mean, as y'all continue to type, little fast fun fact. My dad is a retired sergeant major, airborne ranger in Vietnam. Think Vietnam, you might have a generalization of what that experience might be. One part of his Vietnam experience, he literally got struck by lightning. So I can't fit that into generalization, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Transition. Absolutely. And we'll get to transition in a little bit as well, too. I just want to thank you first for sharing those, being open and honest, and helping to create this safe, supportive space that we're in. But also, every one of those that was shared, that's a place where trust could have been broken down. And so naming them out loud is how we stop making them. And one thing about identity here, that individual identity, it often outlasts the uniform. And so let's talk a little bit more about that identity. There's really three things that shape how this community moves through the world. And that first being hierarchy, right? That is everything. Rank is going to shape how they relate to authority. It's also going to shape how they relate to asking for help. Going outside of the chain of command can feel genuinely risky. Sit with that for a second, because it's the prevention hook right here on this slide. If somebody has been trained for years to never go around a chain of command, then just asking for help isn't just simple advice. It can feel like a violation of who they are. And so that's why our prevention work, our outreach, our engagement has to come to them, meet them where they are at. And like I said, identity outlasts service. Many veterans still introduce themselves by what they did years later, decades later. We may have seen it in the chat box. Once a Marine, always a Marine. That's not a bumper sticker. It's not a catchy slogan. That's identity. And then third, the unit is the family. Belonging to something bigger than yourself, oh, that is a core protective force, not just factor, but force. One of the strongest ones there is. And losing it after service, I can leave. That can leave a real hole. So hold on to that one because we're gonna come back to that when we talk about families. And again, when we talk about life on campus, because a lot of risk lives right there. Now, those same values that make military strong can also become barriers. So I want to look at that tension a little bit more in depth, a little bit more detail. This might be one of the most important slides in this deck, which, by the way, you'll get the slide deck afterwards as well. But the big idea is this. It's that tension. The same trait can protect, can also endanger. Not different traits, the same one. Mission first, that strength is real, right? That's going to drive focus, follow through. Nobody executes, nobody gets the job done like this community. And the barrier is that mission first can mean ignoring your own needs until you break. Raise your hand if we also do that in prevention work, right? Putting everybody else first, ignoring our own needs until we are just out of gas. Yeah, yeah. So let's all learn from that one here too. Self-care is prevention as much as intervention and treatment, right? And so don't show weakness. That that strength is toughness and reliability, right? My ability to embrace the suck and drive on, to be tough with that grit, that is a strength. I pride myself on the fact that you can count on me. But that also can be a barrier because asking for help starts to feel like I am a failure. Not, oh, I failed, but I am a failure. And that take care of your own. The strength, the strength is fierce loyalty and mutual support, right? You take care of your battle buddies. There's that safety net. But that can create a bit of a distrust of outsiders, which, let's be clear, that includes us, right? Prevention folks. It includes well-meaning people who care and want to help. Martha, quick note of the chat box. Yes, if you served in the military, you're a veteran. Doesn't matter if you had a combat deployment or not. You are a veteran. And so what I want you to really take away from this slide here, don't dismiss or downplay these values. Honor them first, then name the cost. Because if you walk into a room and treat mission first like it's a symptom, oh, that's a symptom. We gotta cure that real quick. You've already lost them. I'm not asking you to fix military life. I'm just asking you to understand it well enough that your program, your programs, your prevention work doesn't accidentally push or punish someone for living military life. So with those values in mind, I want to name just some of the protective factors and just some of the risk factors directly. And so on that protective factor side, a few I want to highlight here: camaraderie, connectedness, resilience, discipline, that strong sense of purpose and mission, access to structured support and benefits, which is real, and it's also sadly underused. But on the risk side, stigma against help seeking, trauma exposure, PTSD, TBI, traumatic brain injury, moral injury, which that was language that I added to my vocabulary as I went through the trauma recovery program and uncovered that that was at the core of my hurt. So if you're not familiar with moral injury, I'd encourage you to learn more about that too. frequent relocation, isolation that comes with that, transition stress, substance use showing up as a way to cope, right? These are just some of the risk and protective factors. I want you to watch how these connect because this is what makes them stick. Every risk factor on the right side, it's a shadow. It's a shadow of the strength on the left. Stigma, that comes straight out of the don't show weakness, right? Isolation comes from losing the unit. Transition stress comes from losing the mission and the structure that organized your entire life. Those are not two separate lists. They're the same coin. Now, this list is in your workbook, so if you don't have that, you don't have to scramble to write it. And side note too, the workbook is loaded into the content tab. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. But you do have access to a workbook that has all of this content in here. So you don't need to scramble and take screenshots or jot every single thing down. Yes, Cassie. Yes, indeed. We'll come back to that one a little bit too, as far as the risk of what gets written down and documented and the impact that can have. Because asking for help can have real consequences. All right, Verdell. So, all right, Chisholm, you're on it. Awesome. The content tab. I'll continue while my wonderful team with the Southeast PTTC helps folks find that as well in the content tab. We'll also be posting it on the website with the recording of this. All right, so I want to show you something here, and I'm going to use myself as the example. I want you to look at that left side. This is how our field usually talks about this population. 22 a day. 1 in 5 come home with PTSD. A veteran suicide rate 1.5 times the civilian rate. Now, every one of those, accurate, data backs it up, right? Well-intentioned. Well-intentioned. Now, let me tell you what I heard when I saw those campaigns. Back when I was struggling in silence, my darkest days, hurting, not wanting to ask for help. I heard that's what people like me are. If I raise my hand and say I'm struggling, I don't get help. I become the statistic. I confirm the exact thing I was working so hard not to be. Broken, crazy, the problem. When I was in my darkest days, struggling in silence, that was the messaging I was seeing. I kept my mouth shut for years. For years. So here's a mechanism I want to share with you, and it runs straight back to what we just said about don't show weakness. The problem-focused messaging tells somebody they are the problem. And if your whole identity is built on being reliable, on being the one people count on, the last thing you'll do is volunteer for that category. Raise your hand and say, I'm a problem. I'm the problem. Oh, makes it so hard. It doesn't encourage help seeking. Those messages, they move funders, right? They move headlines. They may even help get budgets approved. But I want you to know at the same time, they can quietly tell the exact person we're trying to reach that asking for help is proof something is wrong with them. Now, that's not a reason to stop caring about the numbers. It's just a reason to be careful and intentional about who else might be reading those numbers. So what do we do instead? I don't just want to raise a problem. What do we do instead? Same information, different door, different feel, different spirit. On the left, problem focused. Problem focused. 22 a day, 1 in 5, higher risk, right? Don't be a statistic. That frame is deficit. Here's what's wrong with it. right? It says, here's what's wrong with you, the person. On the right, strength-based. And these aren't hypothetical. These aren't ones I just made up. This is from the VA's REACH campaign and the Air Force's Be There campaign. They use language like this. I want you to notice what changed. The strength-based version, it doesn't deny the problem. It just stops making the person the problem. It speaks to the identity we just spent part one on. Capable, reliable, part of something bigger. It puts help seeking inside of that identity instead of outside of it. Reaching out becomes what strength looks like instead of what failure looks like. So here's an action item if you want to hold on to it. And it's a small one. This week, tomorrow, next week, pull just one piece of your own material, a flyer, a social media post, an intake form, a slide you use all the time, and just ask two questions. Does this describe them as a problem or as a person with strengths? And would somebody who has spent years being the reliable one see themselves in it? If the answer is no, you don't need a new budget to fix that. You need to have maybe 20 minutes and a willingness to change some words, right? Just one little thing, one little change. All right, back to that chat. Back to that chat. You served. I know we've got a few folks in there and or a close family member who served. I want you to type your branch or their branch in the chat, plus one word about what that branch is known for. If you don't have a military connection, no problem. Type the branch you are most curious about. Go ahead and drop those in the chat. All right. Care, first to fight. Space Force. Space Force, they're called the Guardians, by the way, if you weren't familiar with that. Navy, drinking, Marines, fighting. Curious about the Navy. I'll tell you what, if you don't know much about the Coast Guard, their mission and what they do, pretty doggone cool stuff. They don't get talked about nearly enough for all the cool stuff and important stuff they do. Cyber Force. Navy. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, as those keep coming in, I want you to notice. I want you to notice how fast the pride showed up, right? Nobody hesitated. Nobody typed like want, want, want. But notice about how the different branches feel from one another. It's not on accident, right? Not on accident. Here's the takeaway. When a service member or family member walks into your program, their branch is a part of who they are. So asking about it is a sign of respect. It's not being nosy. It's the same thing as learning how to say somebody's name correctly, right? Just asking that question. Yeah. Okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So we've looked into their world. We've looked into the three layers. We've got some new questions we're going to ask so we don't inadvertently break down trust before we even have a chance to build it. So now we're going to go into the part that is easily missed. Their family. Their family. Prevention that ignores the family misses most of the picture. And in my experience, this is the section that shifts how we as prevention professionals think. Because families are usually invisible in our data and our outreach when it comes to the military connected community. But three groups, oh, they carry weight that most of us never see, never even think about. The spouses, and I know we got some spouses in the chat room as well. Feel free to drop your thoughts as we go here, but spouses hold the house together through deployments. Okay, that's what they signed up for. But y'all, that means single parenting for months at a stretch while managing their own fear about whether their person is coming home. Who's checking on them? My sister, her husband was in the Navy, deployed to the Middle East, 2 kids and 2 horses, living in Virginia, where family were all in the Midwest, hours and hours away. Then they were up in Connecticut. Then they were in South Korea, so far from family and supports. She had to juggle and manage it all. It is not easy. It is not easy. And the children, and the children, got to slow down here because this is where prevention has the most leverage. Military kids are adaptable and resilient. Genuinely, they are. Y'all, the official flower of the military child is the dandelion because they can grow anywhere. I mean, how beautiful is that? That just about gives me goosebumps when I think about it. But they're also navigating repeated goodbyes, new schools, a parent who may come home changed. Let me say that again. A parent who may come home changed. That is a lot for an 8-year-old to process, to hold, right? How are we supposed to expect them to understand? And those caregivers, too. The caregivers, these are the people caring for wounded or aging veterans, often invisible, often for years, often without a single person asking how they are doing. And sometimes that caregiver's a spouse. Also, sometimes that caregiver might be a teenager as well. So don't forget about the caregivers. Don't forget about the caregivers. Now, a lot of this weight comes from two things the rest of us rarely experience: constant moving and deployment cycles. Constant moving and deployment cycles. Every 3 to 5 years. That's roughly how often many military families move. My sister got married, moved to Virginia Beach, then within 1 year, moved to San Diego. 2 years later, they went to Chinhae, South Korea. Think about that. New school, new friends, starting over again and again. Imagine changing your job, your kid's school, your entire friend group every 3 years. For a kid who moves at 5, then again at 9, and then at 13, that's most of their childhood. Then months apart during deployments, separate families for weeks or a year or more. And the whole family system has to reorganize around the absence. Roles shift. The 11-year-old becomes the helper. The spouse becomes everything. And then reintegration. Reintegration has its own adjustments. And people underestimate that constantly. Oh, they're home. Awesome. Great. Everything goes back to normal. See, that family adapted to the absence now has to adapt to the return. Everyone changed. Nobody's quite sure where they fit anymore. Are you doing that? Am I supposed to do that? What is my new role here? Now, here's the prevention connection, and it is a direct one. Protective factors like belonging and connectedness are exactly what constant moving disrupts. That's precisely why community level supports matter so much for this community. And that's where we're going next. So, what does prevention look like when you take the whole family seriously? 4 moves here, all practical, all of them really low cost. And that's my point. Ask the question: have you or a family member ever served? Add it to your intake questions, to your outreach, to your conversations in the community. This can be the single highest leveraged thing on this slide. I mean that. You cannot serve who you cannot see. So ask that one question, and then reach where families already are. Schools, clinics, youth programs, faith communities. Don't build a new front door and just wait for people to walk through it. Go to where they already walk. And then build something in for the spouses and caregivers, not just the service members. If your entire program is focused on the person who wore the uniform, you're serving one person in a house of four, right? And partner with the schools. Keep belonging steady when everything else in that kid's life is moving and changing, right? And so here's a model that I just want to share related to that last one. Something concrete that's in schools right now. And it's the Purple Star Award. It's a designation for schools that show a strong commitment to the military connected students and families. There are a ton of states that have adopted it. Why does it matter for prevention? Well, because it builds protection around military kids at the community level, exactly at the point where belonging gets disrupted by moves. Now, you don't have to become an expert on it. Your move is simply awareness, knowing that this exists. Ask your local school district. Are we a Purple Star school? Google it. Do you have Purple Star schools in your region, in your area? If not, what would it take? If you're in education on a coalition, you could be the person who champions it, right? You could be the person that brings the Purple Star Award to your schools, your community. It's there. When my sister was relocating, it's one of the first things she'd look for. Which schools have the Purple Star Award? Before she started to reach out and figure out where to move, what neighborhoods to live in. She's putting her children first. I want you to just pause for a moment. Just want you to pause for a moment and think. No typing yet. No typing yet. But where would a military spouse, military kid actually show up in your current work? Your current work, not hypothetically, but in the program you run, on the caseload you're already carrying, at the tables you already sit at. Where would they already be? Where would they already be? Just ponder that for a moment. When you're ready, drop those in the chat. Drop them in the chat. Where are they at? Cassie, Amanda, y'all were on it. You're ready. Yep. Community events. Therapy, school-based prevention, anywhere. Kids are in your school. Yes, indeed. They're there. They are there. Yep, absolutely. Community outreach both on and off base, schools, churches. Yep. Treatment, community events, social media. Indiana does support Purple Star schools. Absolutely. When my brother-in-law retired, they moved to Indiana. College in your neighborhoods. Absolutely. They're there. You're already serving them. You're already supporting them. Oftentimes they're invisible because we're not asking the questions. Have you or a family member ever served? Right? Right. Now, we've talked about, hey, Tammy, all right, high five, you're Purple Star School. Thank you for doing that. Thank you. All right. Let's continue on here. We've talked about their world. We've talked about the family. The last stop on our journey together today is a little bit about their journey, right? And a setting where a lot of you can likely act. You may already have existing relationships. You may be working in higher ed already too. Might already be working too. Because see, for a lot of veterans, myself included, campus was where transition got real for me. See, when I came back from my deployment, I got back just in time to watch my friends graduate college. So when I jumped right back into college, my entire friend group was gone. It was gone. And so this is where we're going to get real practical. Martha, bummed to see you go, but no worries. The recording will be on the website in 2 to 3 days, I believe. But thank you for coming. Campus was a hard landing for me. And here's 3 reasons why it was a little hard for me, right? The military gave me order, mission, clear chain of command. Somebody told me where to be and why it mattered. Campus? Yeah. Campus, by comparison, felt formless, felt lonely. It felt lonely, right? Remember back to part 1, those protective factors, structure, belonging, purpose? When I came back to campus, those didn't just slowly fade away. They were gone overnight. Now, that is not a character flaw. That is not a knock on higher education. That's just the system. I was also older. Students, I didn't know how to talk to students about my experiences, right? Oftentimes, veterans on campus, military members on campus, they're older than their classmates. They may have families, mortgages, jobs. The usual campus experience, the dorm life, the social calendar just doesn't fit, right? Those experiences I was carrying, my peers couldn't relate to. It it is genuinely hard to talk about a deployment in a freshman or sophomore class where people actually get it. So people don't. You don't talk about it. And then that gap deepens the feeling of isolation and loneliness. And so, if there's campus prevention folks in the room today, this is your wheelhouse. This is exactly where you can make a move. But it comes back to that same catch. Oftentimes, we can't tell who they are. They don't always self identify. A lot of student veterans blend in on purpose. They're not looking to be the veteran in the room. And quick little snapshot story here, I was just that. I actually tried to distance myself from the piece of my veteran identity because of stigma, because of shame, because I didn't want to be labeled as PTSD, as crazy Dave, as broken, as hurting. And so I tried to distance myself from that part of my identity as much as I could because I was suffering and struggling in silence. And so if you never ask, you will never know that they're here. Also know that your messaging may not fit. Prevention material built for an 18-year-old it's rarely gonna land with a 27-year-old who's led people in combat. Now, I say that with a smile, but the point underneath is serious. You're dealing with an adult, mission-oriented learner, so talk to them that way as well. Partner with those veteran services, right? The campus veteran services officer is your fastest path to trust and to reach. Don't go around it. Go with it together. And then again, normalize that question. Have you ever served? Put it on forums, in conversations, anywhere and everywhere. It makes it safe to be seen. It makes it safe to raise your hand and say, that's me. But the through line on this whole slide comes back to that same line. You can't serve who you can't see. And you won't see them unless you ask. You won't see them unless you ask. So 3 questions to steal. They're in the workbook. Take them, use them. Powerful questions, important questions. What's been the biggest difference between military and campus life for you? Think about the rich conversation that would come from that. Who do you lean on here when things get heavy? Oh, that one right there, when I was struggling, when I was suffering, when I was silent, that right there would have like, oh, I really don't have somebody. I don't know. Right? Here's that last one though. That last one, oh, that last one is one of my favorites. What would actually be useful to you? not what we think is useful, right? How often do we do that? Oh, I know what they need. I know what they want. How about we just ask? Now, you don't need to memorize these, don't need to have them on a quick reference card because the exact wording matters less than the posture underneath it. Look at what all three have in common. Every one of them is open. Every one of them is curious. And everyone hands the expertise back to them. That is the whole thing. You're not the expert on their life. They are. Your job is to ask good questions and then get out of the way. And that posture, that spirit, that works with any SMVF member, not just students, a spouse, a caregiver, a guard member at your coalition table. Those same three questions are versatile and important and powerful. And those are also in your workbook. So just be curious and ask questions. All right. The time has come to build your toolkit. Roll up those sleeves, grab your pens, get ready to type. But I want you to write 2 to 3 specific things you can do in your own role, your current role right now, to better serve the SMVF community. Not someday. Oh, not when we get more funding. Just things you could start tomorrow, next week, next month. Things where you don't need to go get more funding, get permission, things within your sphere of influence where you can just do them. All right, I'm going to take just a couple minutes here. A couple prompts on the slide there to get you going, right? Just what's one question you could add to your intake or outreach, right? One family serving partner you'll reach out to, or one way you'll find and welcome student veterans to increase their feeling of belonging and connectedness, right? Gonna give you just a couple minutes here, and I want you to actually write these down because writing is gonna turn ideas into a plan. Go ahead and take a moment here, catch a beat, write them down. One more minute, about one more minute. Right, all right. Good to see y'all are doing the work, and thanks for sharing those that put those in the chat. If you feel so inspired to, absolutely share yours. No requirement, but can help inspire and give all of us ideas where we can learn from each other as well. Yes. Some great, great action items, action steps, making my heart oh so happy. Turning these ideas into a plan. All right. So I want to just wind down and close with just 5 questions. Just 5 questions. And this is a reflection model that's going to walk us from what we saw to what we felt to what it means to what we'll do. And this first one is easy, purely factual. And so in that chat box there, we all have been rocking it. I want you to just add, just write, just what is one thing you saw or heard today that stuck with you, that's still in your mind, that's still resonating, like, oh yeah, I'm going to hold on to that. Just what's one thing you saw or heard today that stuck with you? Not what you think you're supposed to say. Just stuck. Just stuck. Mm-hmm. Purple Star Schools. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Keep coming. What else? What else stuck with you today? Moral injury. Mm-hmm. Moral injury is it's different than PTSD. It is. It is. I've learned a lot about it. PTSD tends to be more fear based. Am I safe? Moral injury, the question is, am I good? Completely different hurt, completely different feelings. Language matters. Same things that make us strong can also make us vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Don't have to know a lot, just ask good questions. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Oh, living history video diary. Different people can process experiences, same event. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Need a push to reduce 22 a day. Yep, yep. All right. All right. Now hold on to those. Hold on to those because we're going to go one layer deeper. Second question. And this one's more about feeling. Yes, I'm a combat veteran, Army infantry, standing in front of a bunch of professionals saying, hey, let's talk about our feelings. But I mean it. I mean it. What surprised you today? What's maybe something that hit closer to home than you expected? What's something that hit closer to home than you expected today? Moral injury? Mm-hmm. That was a light bulb and a big turning point in my own healing journey. Lack of, yeah. Yes, you are seen. It is real. You are not alone in that. Hope Art Schools. It is. It is a great outreach opportunity. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take much to champion one as well. It really doesn't. It is definitely doable. Yeah. All right. All right. Next question. Next question. If you're ready, hopefully you're ready because it's coming. Where do you want to know more? You may be curious, like, oh, I want to know more about moral injury or spouses or families. Where do you want to know more? Where are you still curious? More about families? Mm-hmm. You're getting better needs existing prevention efforts. Mm-hmm. Connections to the specific risk and protective factors. Mm-hmm. Families, support they need, moral injury, support to families. Yep. Mm-hmm. All big, important topics. Yes, indeed. And I have a feeling our PTTC team might be taking notes here as well for future webinars and training topics. Yep, research moral injury, family systems. Hmm. Yeah, families can be helped to better create a village. I like that. I like that. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Now, fourth question. Math is not my strong suit, but I do like to ask good questions. What does this mean? What we've learned today, what we've talked about, what we're going to do moving forward. What does this mean for the people you serve and for your own work? Take your time on this one. It's a bigger question. Got to level it up a bit. Just continued improvement, continuous improvement. 1% better every day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of needs assessment. Mm-hmm. Asking the question. Asking the questions. More intentional. All right. All right. So last question. Last question, I promise. This one I want you to write it down again because writing is what takes an idea into action. There's a commitment page in your workbook if you've got it downloaded, if you printed it out. But I want you to just write down, even if it's just on a piece of paper, a post-it note if you've got those handy. Write down what the one thing you'll do differently because of today. Just one. Don't write down 5, just one thing. You're already naming them, you're already thinking about them, but write them down. Just one. Our approach to start a conversation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Write them down. Those answers, what you just wrote down, here's a surprise. That's going to become your Monday morning commitment to make it real. Take what you just wrote down, make it concrete with these 3 lines: what, when, and with whom. I want you to get crystal clear and specific what you're going to do differently. Specifically enough that somebody could tell whether you did it or not. Oh, yeah, definitely. Cassie did that. Easy peasy. Clear as can be, right? Write that real date, not just someday, not, oh, this fall. Write a date. Because a commitment without a date, that's just a wish. But write a date and name that person, just one person that you're going to tell, you're going to involve. And I share that in that accountability isn't pressure, it's partnership, it's togetherness. Oh, Xander already did it. Yeah. Taking action. Taking action. Wonderful. Wonderful. And yeah, for those sharing in the chat too, if you want to share it, I'd encourage you to do so because when you share a commitment publicly, it's going to stick better. It's not me just being sentimental and nosy and wanting to see what you came up with to make sure you did it. It's because when you say something out loud, when you say a commitment, it's going to stick and you're going to be even more likely to take action. And I pulled that from my own recovery and from motivational interviewing. Sunday's Veteran Appreciation Picnic with no issues. Send in positive energy and good vibes your way for no issues. Either way, know that you've got a resilient group there that can come together if issues need addressing. All right. I appreciate each and every one of you for doing the work you do and sharing those action items in the chat box as well. I love it. And Gonna save a little bit of time, might be able to take a couple questions if need be, but I also want you to have time to do the GIPRA evaluation as well, because those GIPRAs, they only take 2 to 3 minutes, but they are oh so important, not just for the PTTC team, but for trainers, speakers like myself on how I can get 1% better every single day as well. It is oh so important. But I do want to close with this last slide here. You do not have to be a veteran to serve this community well. You have to be willing to learn their world, honor their families, and just walk part of their journey with them. That's what it takes. That's what's going to take people from those boots to belonging. Big thanks to the Southeast PTTC for hosting this and for investing in this work. And again, thank you to all of you for showing up today, for leaning in, for engaging, and for showing up for a community that doesn't always get shown up for, right? And so with that, I will again thank you and turn it back over to the PTTC team so we can get that GIPRA evaluation rocking and rolling. And also know I'm always just one email away, and I'm always happy to help. Thank you all for today.